Hi, I'm Nana and welcome to this Plan With Me video where I'll be setting up my bullet journal for March. Since March is the first month of spring, I wanted to do a spring theme, but I also wanted to do something that was a little more interesting than just flowers, so I'm doing a flowers and ocean theme. I was inspired by Juliet Schreckinger on Instagram. She does a lot of beautiful ocean-inspired drawings and she draws a lot of lighthouses, which inspired me to make this lighthouse with a turtle sort of swimming behind it, and then I added flowers to the turtle shell to give the theme this spring feeling. I will of course leave a link to Juliet Schreckinger's account on Instagram in the description below. But before we get too into it, I want to apologize in advance for my head frequently bumping into the frame. While I was filming, I thought I was doing so well keeping my head out of the camera angle, but that was clearly not the case, so I tried to edit the worst of it out, and so there's probably gonna be a few weird cuts here and there. And you still get some glimpses of my head because I have a big attention demanding forehead and I didn't want to cut too much of the process out. But as you can see, I drew everything in pencil first and now I'm just going over the drawing with a 0.3 fine liner, and later I will add some details and shading with a 0.1 fine liner. I would have liked to use an even thinner fine liner for the details and the shading in the flowers, but I don't have one. So I tried using really light strokes instead, where the pen was just barely touching the page and it was a bit difficult to control, but the good thing is that when you're drawing flowers, little mistakes only make them look more organic and natural, and I quite like the sketchy look as well. Speaking of how to draw flowers, I should also give a shout out to Shayda Campbell here on YouTube. When I first got the idea for this theme, I was not very confident in my flower drawings, but I've been following some of her tutorials, and if it wasn't for those tutorials, this wouldn't have turned out half as good. So I will of course also link her channel in the description below. I'm trying a new layout for my cover page this month. Instead of having the cover page on the right side, I have the cover decoration on the left side and a monthly layout on the right side. I'm doing this because I always thought it was a shame that I don't actually really get to enjoy or even look at my cover page throughout the month, because I never just have my journal open on the cover page. And this way, whenever I flip to check my monthly calendar, I can also enjoy my cover illustration. And since I was already using this vertical calendar list layout where I only need one page from my calendar, it worked out perfectly. And then I just have this mini calendar in the top corner to provide a quick visual overview of the month. I was debating quite a bit whether to color the illustration or not, because I really liked the simple line art and I was afraid color would ruin it, but I also really wanted it to have a spring feeling, and to me, spring means color. So I decided to color it, and in this coloring process, I made some good choices and I made some more questionable choices, but I overall like how it turned out with the colors and I'm happy that I did it. But let me know in the comments, did you like it better without the colors or do you prefer the colors? The next page is for writing down my focus and highlights for the month. And here I'm doing a floral corner illustration, but in the middle, instead of a big flower, there is an old-fashioned diving helmet. There are a lot of circles involved in drawing a diving helmet, but instead of drawing perfect circles, I just went over the lines a couple of times, which makes it look more intentionally sketchy, and then I draw in the flowers around the helmet. On the rest of the page, I have room to write down what I want to focus on this month and my highlights for the month. My focus is kind of like goals for the month, except it's a bit more relaxed. So I will write down some areas of my life I want to improve on or spend more time on this month, but there won't be a specific goal related to it, just because it's nice to not always be focused on achievements and instead focus on progress and just on trying, and also to not have to measure everything I do. And the highlights section is for writing down any good things that happen throughout the month that I want to remember. For all the illustrations and highlights this month, I am using the same colors as I did on the cover page, so even though the drawings are quite different from each other, it still looks cohesive throughout the month. If you're curious about exactly what colors I'm using, I will make sure to write it in the description. Remember how I just said it's nice not to measure everything I do? Well, this is where I measure everything I do. This is my habit tracker, where I am keeping track of the habits that I want to improve on doing regularly. I am using a vertical layout where I am tracking all my habits in the same table, so underneath every day I will put a little X after doing the thing, and then I can track how many days I'm keeping up with doing my good habits, and I can see if there are any days where I am falling behind. In the corner I am drawing a jellyfish that has some branches with flowers instead of tentacles. Is it even called tentacles on a jellyfish, or is that just octopi? I don't know, but you can see what I mean. The dangly bits coming out of the jellyfish is branches with little leaves and flowers on them. The next two pages are quite different, but they share an illustration at the bottom, so I'm doing them together. On the left page is my expense tracker, and on the right page is my currently page. I'm drawing a whale jumping out of a sea of flowers, and the drawing turned out to be a little bigger than I had planned when I first did it in pencil, but I didn't want to redo it, so instead of having one wide table to track my expenses as I usually do, I just made two slightly more narrow tables to make room for everything, as you will see in a bit. Here you might notice that I am writing udgifter instead of expenses. If my accent hasn't already given it away, I am Danish, and I am switching quite a bit between Danish and English titles. I just usually pick whatever sounds best to me or whatever makes more sense when I'm using my journal. And so I have udgifter in Danish, and later I will write currently in English, because for some reason that makes sense to me. On my currently page, I just have 3 sections. One for tracking the books I'm reading this month, one for tracking the music and podcasts I'm listening to, and one for the series and movies I am watching. I'm keeping the decoration minimal on this page because I want to be sure I have enough room to write everything down. I really surprised myself here in February, and I have already read and listened to 6 books/audiobooks this month, and I have started the next 2 books, and I did not have room for all these 8 books in my setup for this month. So next month in March I am making the setup a little bit cleaner, so I have plenty of room to write everything down. Moving on to my notes page. This is basically a brain dump page. I just prefer to call it a notes page or noter, since this is another Danish title, but it's just a place for me to write down random thoughts, ideas, or inspirations that I want to remember for a later time. I always keep the illustration to a minimum on this page, so I have plenty of room for writing, and so here I'm just drawing a mussel with a flower in 2 of the corners, and then I added some vines or branches to make it look like the mussels themselves are growing out of a plant. The last thing I need to do for this setup is the first weekly page of the month. I always do the same weekly setup because this setup works really well for me, so I don't feel the need to mix it up every week, and it also saves me a lot of time each week when I'm setting up for the next week. I just said the word week a lot, but this is the weekly setup, so it makes sense. Anyway, this is a slightly modified version of the rolling weekly. So on the left page I have little boxes for each day of the week where I can write down events, appointments, meetings, or anything else that needs to happen on a specific day. And I also have an extra box to write the number of the week, where I also have a mini calendar for a quick overview of the month, and then there's an extra box for a little illustration. On the right page I have my rolling to-do list, where I write down all my tasks that I need to get done that week, but that I don't have to do on a specific day. I was introduced to this system by Elizabeth from Plant-Based Bride, so if you want to know more about how it works, I would recommend you watch her video about it, which I will link in the description below. My modification is that at the bottom of the right page I have a weekly meal planner. I have never needed the entire page for a to-do list, so I decided to put the bottom of the page to good use, and so this is where I keep track of the dinners I have planned for the week. And for the little illustration, I'm just doing an anchor that has a vine going around it instead of a rope. And that is it for this setup. Thank you so much if you have watched till the end of this video. I am so happy with how this turned out, and I hope you liked it too. If you do like it, please let me know by liking the video and leave a comment. And if you want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel. I hope to see you again, and in the meantime, take care and goodbye.